Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Words or Less, the podcast. I am your host, Ray Harkins, and we are sitting here at episode number 26. And welcome. Thank you for wanting to hang out and downloading the episode and all that other good stuff. So let's get some business out of the way. We are presenting this podcast in conjunction with Property of Zach. Visit propertyofzach.com, and you'll be able to find everything. And I mean everything in regards to independent music. I know there's a lot of websites out there, and they all have their own little, unique twist on it. I personally really like what Zach does over at his, essentially, blog. He started when he was like 16 years old, and then more and more people started visiting, and he started to bring contributors on, and, it's grown from there. So anyways, visit that website. I'm really proud to be partnering up with him, and he spreads the word, and I spread the word about his site, and it's a beautiful relationship here. And a few other things that you can do for the show. Go to iTunes and 2 minutes out of your time, review the show. You just write 2 or 3 sentences about what you enjoyed or why you think the show sucks, whatever. I don't care, as long as you're writing about it. Because I think I've mentioned this in previous episodes. I check every few days just to see if anyone else has written something about it, because that's just my compulsive nature. I got to check. And the more ratings we get, the more people pay attention to it that might not have ever tripped on this podcast to begin with. So we'd appreciate that. And visit the website, 100wordspodcast.com, and you can join in on the fun discussions that happen there, from recommendations on stuff I've watched, listened, consumed, whatever. And eventually I'll start getting into having other people share what they've been watching and listening, whether it's like past guests of the show or whatever the case may be. So that content will start to expand. But yes, and if you're a Tumblr person, then you can also follow the blog that way. So yeah, the guest I'll get into in a moment, but I would like to talk about a interesting experience I had recently with jury duty. Now, normally people look at jury duty and say it's the worst thing ever. They have to, rearrange their schedule and blah, blah, blah. I hadn't done jury duty in, 10 years? I don't know. It's been forever since I have gone in there to the actual courthouse. Previously, I did like a few call-in things, but so I went in there, and first of all, super impressive. The Santa Ana courthouse in Southern California here, they have Wi-Fi. It's just, I don't know, you could totally hang out there, and of course, it's not the most comfortable place because there's, it's you and about 400 other people, it feels like. But I just was impressed with the fact that they actually had little amenities that made your stay or your time in that room a little bit easier. Because I remember the last time I showed up, it was pretty much like, all right, bring 400 magazines and you'll be able to finish all of them in the 8-hour day you have to sit there. Anyways, I actually advanced a little bit in this process, and so I got to be put on a jury pool, which is where you basically go into a courtroom and then they start asking questions. When I say they, I mean the prosecutor and the defense attorney and the judge start asking questions, whether or not you feel like you would be able to properly evaluate the case and be a good juror and all that type of stuff. And I'd never experienced that before. And while the first, 2 or 3 hours of being in there were super tedious because it was the judge basically going on and on about how important this duty is. And, after the first 15 minutes, you're like, yo, I get it. I totally understand civic duty and all. But once you actually got into the, like I said, the defense and prosecution, asking questions to jurors to basically either eliminate them or figure out if they would be beneficial for them to be on the jury. And it was just so interesting to watch people work, watch professionals do their job and, hone their craft and guide conversations in certain directions. Obviously, people could compare it to why it's compelling to watch, Law and Order and all those courtroom dramas and read John Grisham books and all that stuff. But when you actually see it sort of, face to face, so to speak, you definitely get drawn into it. It was like, by the end of the day, I hadn't been called to get into the jury box, but by the end of the day, you're pretty invested in this case. Like, I mean, they don't reveal too many details about it, but they give you kind of the general gist of it. And listening to other people kind of have to share like really personal stories, like, oh yeah, I was arrested because for assault and whatever. And I'm talking about the jurors that are saying this. So it's like, you don't even know these people's names, and they're revealing really intimate details about themselves. It's on some weird planet. It's that's obviously normal within the context of this discussion. But yeah, so it was a strange, feeling hearing these people bare their soul about their past indiscretions. But yeah, so then, at the end of the day, I didn't get called, and you were dismissed. And it was weird because you felt like this little separation where it was like, I kind of wanted to be in the jury. Another interesting thing is, like I said, the common conception of jury duty is that like no one wants to do it. No one is like getting called in and is like, oh my God, I can't wait. Like, this is awesome. Because, it takes up a lot of time if you do get on a jury. Like, this case was going to be 14 days or something. So you have all these people that are complaining, like in the common spaces where we're just kind of hanging out and waiting for stuff to happen. But then if those people who, 20 minutes ago were complaining about having to go through this, once they're put in the jury box and questions start to get asked of them, it immediately flips where these people... and I think it happens for a lot of people where, they feel like they're being attacked, even though it isn't malicious. Their character is put in question, whether or not they feel like they would be biased towards one side, whether it's the defense or the prosecution. And it's just really interesting to see people kind of, take a step backwards and be like, hey, no, like, I can totally be fair just because I have, like, my husband's a cop, my brother's a cop. And no, I can totally, look at the facts of the case and be able to judge fairly in, for one side or the other based on the evidence that's presented. So it was just really interesting to see people kind of back off on that. So moral of the story, you never know how you're going to react in certain situations. And, especially when your own personal either background or character is put in question, people immediately, try to take the highest road they possibly can. And so, like I said, it was really interesting. And if you get called in for jury duty, don't be too bummed, because it could end up being a very interesting experience. And so don't close yourself off to that opportunity. Just kind of embrace it and be like, all right, well, I got to put my time in. And who knows, you might get some really crazy case and, be sequestered. And I look at like the O.J. Simpson jurors, and for those of you that weren't alive then, just Google O.J. Simpson, because you'll probably find out. But those people that were in these high profile cases and had to stay in hotels for months at a time, and it just kind of starts to get your head rolling of where, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe these people experience this. But anyways, jury duty, I went on way too long, I apologize. Let's get into our guest, which is Cameron Argon, commonly known as Big Chocolate in the sort of electronic dance music, dubstep, whatever you'd like to call it. That is his artist's moniker. And he also does vocals for a project called Disfiguring the Goddess, which is a death metal, I guess that's the easiest way to describe it, a death metal band. And then for some of you, you are going to look at a person like Big Chocolate and have, maybe negative connotations attached to not so much him, but maybe electronic dance music in general. But throw those preconceived notions aside. Listen to this conversation, because Cameron is a great dude, and he is just putting himself out there, and this is the way that he feels like he wants to express himself. And I mean, you don't commonly see people who are within the sort of electronic dance music scene also being really comfortable with, singing in a death metal band. Like, I think he's very unique in that sense of the term. And one other little programming note is the fact that during the conversation, you'll hear the audio quality change. We went from Skype to a phone conversation. So once you hear that change about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes into the conversation, you'll understand why that happened. So, yeah, here you go. We covered a lot of ground, so hope you enjoy. Thanks. That's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting that you like talking on the phone, because I feel that, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm getting older. Like, because how old are you?
22.
Okay, yeah. I'm 31, so there's definitely a little generational difference, but still the same.
Yeah, like, just a tad, not really.
Yeah, not a ton. But I find
I think the only cultural difference is what cartoons we watched when we were like 10.
That's probably true. Yeah, I was watching. That's true. But yeah, I don't know. I get less interested in phone conversations and more like, it's just easier to text people, but that's cool that you like actually enjoy talking on the phone.
I love it. I hate texting. I actually have like 40 unread text messages in my phone.
Yeah.
Like, I've read them when they like to display on the phone. I just don't reply because they're like usually mundane messages or just like a message. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, someone will be like, why do you have like 40 text messages? I'm just like, I don't go through them.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm really popular. Those are just built up from the last like 2 months.
No, it's funny because usually the rap of, whatever, younger people is that, they hate talking on the phone and they would rather, they'd rather text or email or whatever, Facebook message and stuff like that. So you're bucking the trend, dude.
Yeah. I don't know. I like being personal, and I feel like texting only gives you so much, I guess, personality when you're like, it's easy to be mistaken. I don't know. It's weird because I spend like 10 hours a day on my computer, like writing emails and stuff. I emails is fine, but like texting I'm very bad at. And Facebook messages I am probably the worst at.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of screwy now just because that's been such a normal thing. Like, people use Facebook as their like AIM client now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, people will like hit me up for something or reply, and then I'll see them in person. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, nothing. Are we cool? You keep ignoring me. I'm like, you talk.
Yeah.
And then on Facebook.
That's funny. You're like, yes, we're still cool, just because I didn't respond to your message that I don't, as long as people know that you don't check that, then no one can get their feelings hurt.
Yeah, it should be intended by like, look, Cameron Argon last updated his profile 6 months ago. Like, yeah. Speaking of Facebook, I'm totally over the Facebook stuff. Like, it's gonna die. In my opinion, it's gonna die soon.
Yeah. You think kids are going to move on to the next whatever Instagram, social network, whatever?
Yeah, well, it's kind of taking the same trends MySpace did in its closing days. Like, it's changing so much. It went public. You know what I mean? The stocks are going down.
Yeah.
The guys who probably made it are all going to pull out, and then like they're going to develop it into some really weird thing, and then no one's going to be into it. And hopefully, I hope that everyone gets into Google Plus, because the interface on that site is so awesome.
Yeah, I love the fact that you are a nerd and you obviously pay attention to technology, because I saw some of the emails that you were sending me, you sent from Sparrow, which is an awesome email client. And I just get...
Oh, it's my favorite. Sparrow is awesome because like the mail client for Mac is pretty good for so long, but like it downloads the actual emails to your computer, and then it will start lagging and stuff. And if you haven't turned on that computer in like a few days, it like you have this bulk of emails that takes like 20 minutes to like load in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Sparrow it's quick, it's easy, it's simple.
Yeah.
I have it on everything. I have it on all my computers and my phone.
Yeah, no, I like that, because I do find that, I don't know, people just seem to, they either fall into the nerd technology, realm, or they don't give a shit about it. Like, there's no gray area. Like, there's not there's some people that kind of dabble in it, or like, oh yeah, like I like my computer or whatever. But then there's people like, obviously, like you and I, who are just like, oh dude, diving into the latest, greatest, whatever piece of technology it is, just because it's fun to play around with that.
Yeah, and I don't know, technology is becoming more and more and more part of what everyone is basing their lives around. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's like something you can geek out on it, but it's also somewhat relatively very important to like where we're going and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I wake up, I drink some coffee, and I had this app on my iPad called Flipboard, where it's kind of like a
I know
it's
exactly what
like
you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, it's a great app. Basically, bots a bunch of blogs and like the RSS, I can't remember what that is, but it bots all those and it puts them in like one easy to read thing, and it kind of does its own things. Like there's a gaming one where it kind of like it like looks at like Machinima, it looks like IGN, it looks like GameStop, and it takes all the video game news and it puts it into one like really easy to skim across the headlines format.
Yeah.
And yeah, I pretty much wake up every day and look at the video games and tech,
Yeah.
and sometimes the music one. But the music one's usually pretty, I don't know, it's kind of boring actually.
Yeah. Well, because it's not exactly completely relevant to what it is that you're kind of doing and looking at or care about the most.
Yeah, it's like Lil Wayne has a new rock video. It's like nice, or like
cool.
like who? It's just pretty much documenting on what so and so did, and that just bores me.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I wanted to start things off with kind of just like where you were born and sort of like your upbringing and all that type of stuff, because I know that when I first met you, outside Chain Reaction, and just whatever, shot the shit with you for a little bit. It was nice because obviously you were just you're just a real dude, and it's like sometimes when you run across people at shows, sometimes they may have like some air of pretension about them, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm really cool, or I don't know, so whatever, some posturing or posing. I don't know. It's just you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that kind of shit bugs me too. It's
yeah.
I don't know.
It's just
like
I
loosen up kind
totally.
of sometimes.
No, totally. And so I got a very a good impression from you. It's like this dude seems on the level, and then obviously like once our mutual friends, like Steve Joe, who obviously you were very close friends with, and we just all traveled the same circles, and obviously the everyone spoke so highly of you, and I was like, yeah, this like you're definitely on the level. And so I obviously want to take this opportunity to just kind of get to know you a little bit more. So
nice.
where were you born and raised?
Well, first, thank you for the kind words.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I was born in Laguna Hills, but we lived in Huntington Beach. That's where the hospital was where I was born.
Okay.
And then my family lived in Huntington Beach until I was about 13. I have two younger sisters who went to elementary school and middle school in Huntington Beach. All my family lives in Huntington Beach. Most of it, actually. I don't know. Pretty basic life down there.
What is
Irish Catholic family.
Okay. What did your parents do for a living?
My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad, when we were living in Huntington Beach, was a pretty big business CEO kind of guy.
Oh, okay.
Which was cool. My dad was raised from like a very poor family, and he's I don't know, learned a lot. He's very focused. He's a huge inspiration to like kind of how I try and base decisions and whatnot off of. But yeah, he ran a business that he started, and he's like a computer science guy. Like he worked at IBM and Microsoft and
nice
whatnot, and then he left to start his own company. But it was cool, like the way I was raised. Like I had no idea my dad was like CEO of this big company, because like we like leased like a shitty minivan. Like that was our car.
Right.
And it was like, I don't know. It was kind of weird, but that's the way my dad tried to keep us very based.
Right. So he wasn't trying to be.
Now it's very important to me.
Yeah. So he obviously wasn't trying to, because he was a smart individual and he hustled. Like obviously, money was okay, but he didn't want to go around being like, oh, be flashy about it.
Yeah, that's not. It's funny we use the word flashy, because that's like the exact opposite of what my dad is.
That's awesome.
Basically, like, I don't know, running a fairly large company is very stressful.
Yeah, for sure.
And my dad just didn't like the lifestyle anymore. He like wanted a more kind of touch. Like when I was growing up, I didn't really see him a whole lot because he worked pretty much 24/7, especially because I don't know. But we kind of had he wanted like a lifestyle change. We moved out to rural Nevada, which is the northern part.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nevada has pretty much two parts where people live. There's the Vegas area, and then there's the whole Reno Tahoe area, and they're like 9 hours apart driving of like these single lane highways on like
the only places, like the only stops is like these creepy ghost towns. So it's like, what do you do out here?
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like completely different states. It's kind of like Southern California and very Northern California if there is nothing in between.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They develop totally differently, obviously.
No, it's funny because I was actually born in Vegas, and so I lived there up until I was about 8, and I never even went to like Reno or Carson City until I started touring with my bands. And it was one of those things where it's like, dude, I fucking lived in Vegas, but it's just like, yeah, like try to get
totally different.
Yeah, try to get to Reno in a convenient way. It's like, forget about it. You have to drive these, like you said, these completely snake-like routes, and it's just, people don't understand that.
Yeah, like you say you're from Nevada, like, oh, Vegas, or like, oh, I'm going to Vegas this month or something.
Yeah.
And it's just, man, my mom won't stop calling me. It's okay. She does this all the time. Yeah, like there's in Northern Nevada, there's pretty much Reno, which is like I think the population of Reno is the population of Huntington Beach, like 500,000 or something. I'm not sure. That sounds a little high for Reno, but Reno's kind of a dump. It's like you would say no offense, but like everybody who lives there know it is. And It's kind of this weird thing when you're in Reno where it's like everyone there knows it's shot, but they're okay with it. So it like becomes like this weird place where just like being shot and kind of doing things that are like kind of lame are okay. And I don't know. It's kind of weird.
No,
I can always tell when I meet someone that's from Reno. It's like, oh, like when you say where you're from, I'm from Reno. It's like, oh, it's like everything clicks instantly.
That's amazing because I think anybody that does go to Reno, I mean, it's like I said, I only went there because I played shows there, and it was it never gave me a good impression. It was totally just like...
It's really weird there. It takes a while to kind of understand why it doesn't give you a good impression. But as soon as you do, it's like kind of this weird, good, but it's so bad here impression. I don't know how to explain it. I don't really like the city that much. But I have a lot of friends who live there. My sister goes to school there. So I'm up there. I don't know. I go there not quite a bit, but I've experienced it enough to where I understand the place. It's
so it has its, I think the best way to describe it, it has its own charm, but just visiting there just visiting there once or twice, you won't see it.
No. And it's like the weird things about Reno make it what it is. Like staying at the hotels there, like the casino hotels, it's like $25 rooms. That's just like how it is there. It's really strange.
Right.
Like it's not like you're staying in like this like less than the Motel 6 kind of like weird paper hour place. You're staying in like a casino and the room's nice, but it's $25.
Right.
It's a weird city.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, my sister goes to school up there now. And when I was living in Nevada and traveling a lot with DJing on weekends and whatnot, I had to drive an hour to Reno and fly out. And so that's the only time I pretty much only went to Reno was to use the airport, which is a small two-terminal airport that is terrible to fly in and out of, like, just because the flights there are so rare and like they're always more expensive and you always have one more stop.
Right.
I don't know. Did not like doing the whole DJ thing in Reno because flying was such a pain.
Yeah.
Where I lived was about an hour south of Reno in a really small town called Minden. Part of this county called Douglas County. It's a small rural Nevada area. It's like one high school for the whole county, and the high school is only 3 grades, not 4.
Oh, so it's like sophomore, junior, senior?
Yeah. The elementary schools have a 6th grade, and then the middle schools go up to 9th grade, from 7th to 9th. It's really weird. Yeah. Especially because I moved up there when I was like going into 7th grade. Mm-hmm. So it was like I was at the bottom of the food chain in Huntington Beach, and then like I went to 7th grade and then moved Nevada and was at the bottom of the food chain again, right, where everyone's like figuring out how to use a locker still. I'm like, geez.
Right. So did you like your experience like in Southern California? Like, do you because yeah.
After high school, I moved back there to live with my aunt. That's actually when I met you, and I was living down there. I was going to school to be a cop.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah, I wasn't doing the whole music thing until probably about a year after living there. When my electronic music got quite a bit of buzz, and I got a Warped Tour offer, and I just decided to try music out for a while, and I've been doing that ever since. But yeah, I was going to school for criminal justice, and I wanted to be in the police force.
Interesting. So you enjoyed Southern California, and then, like you said, when you moved up there, were you like kind of pissed at your parents for wanting to take you to this place that, you know, obviously was in the middle of nowhere, or was it kind of just like, well, whatever, like maybe I'll get to hang out with my dad more?
We knew the place. It was like, we knew the place because my grandpa lived up there, my grandparents, and we had like some family up there, but it wasn't like it wasn't as many as we have in Huntington Beach.
Mm-hmm.
So we go up there like probably twice a year for like to visit and whatnot. But like when we moved up there, it was like a totally different ballpark. Like it was really weird. It took me about like 2 or 3 years to kind of adjust. And like, it wasn't really until my senior year of high school where I kind of like understood why it's cool to live there. Now I love the place. It's really cool. I go there, visit my parents a few times a year, and I just like, it's so nice just to decompress. Like, there's nothing out there. There's no distractions. Like, even when you want to do something, there's nothing to do. Like, there's like one movie theater in Carson City. If you want to eat, you have to go to casinos because everything else closes at like 8 o'clock. Like, I don't know. It's nice to decompress. There's no one out trying to drag you out to go do stuff because there's nothing to do.
Right. Yeah, it's like a self-imposed, isolation where you're just like, okay, like I can kind of refocus and, like you said, decompress after, whatever crazy stuff you've been doing.
Yeah, it's like a really nice place, and it's like 2 hours away from San Francisco. It's 4 hours away from the Bay, and there's like a lot of people from the Bay and whatnot that live in the area because it's just like the way of life there is just greater than most places. It's like 4 seasons, like nicer schools, like everyone there is pretty normal, which is surprising because usually you get to the smaller towns and everyone's kind of a little off, but there it was like a very well balanced area. Like you have like all like the rancher kids and cowboy kids, but they're like everyone there is just super normal because you're close enough to still be connected to everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know. Like now I'm glad I like had that part of my life because it probably helped shape who I am today as far as just being like pretty based. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You have something that you can reflect on and be like, this. I wasn't raised in this like high octane lifestyle 24/7. It's like you could kind of remove yourself and be okay with that removal.
Yeah, like it's part of the reason I'm doing music because it was literally nothing to do, so I would just make music all the time. That was like there was nothing to do. Like there's like not like when I say there's nothing to do, it's like you don't play football or you don't skateboard. There's like nothing to do.
Right. So as you were kind of going through high school, like like you said, you started back at the bottom of the food chain. Like where. Did you kind of care about high school, or were you pretty much just over it from the beginning? And what?
Oh man, I didn't really like high school. I was very social, but I was only social when I was at school. Mm-hmm. Like I would go home for lunch every day, and I was always late to my last class because I just would get lost on my home eating food or like making music or whatever. And then like I'm sure like all my last period teachers thought I was like on drugs or something, but I was just at home because I didn't want to go to school.
Sure.
Because always those kids that rolled in late after lunch that you're like, you're probably smoking cigarettes at the library or like something stupid. Yeah, I was very, very social. I was very like friendly and whatever. I actually won homecoming king my senior year.
Dude, you saying that, honestly, it doesn't surprise me because you seem like the type of guy where it's like, you're not like the class clown per se, but you're social enough to kind of get along with anybody where no one's going to be like.
I was pretty clowny in school though. Okay. Like I just would goof off constantly.
Sure.
Like I stopped taking notes because I couldn't read my own handwriting. It's so bad, and it was. I don't know. I made it work though. I got pretty decent grades and whatever. But yeah, I won homecoming king, and I didn't go to the dance.
That's amazing.
My mom made me take leadership the last year, which I was pretty glad my mom made me do that. Like there was like you get like invited to take it, like you can qualify, like someone recommends you or whatever, and then you get an invite to the class, and then you have to like fill out like an application, kind of explaining why. And my mom filled it out because she wanted me to do it, and plus I probably would never fill it out, and I couldn't read my handwriting, so it wouldn't work at all. So my mom really wanted me to do that because she wanted me to get more involved. So she filled it out and submitted it without telling me, and I got the class, and I was like, what the hell?
That's incredible.
You're like, Mom. It kind of made me, forced me to, like, be more involved with the community and, like, kids I was growing up with and whatnot. Mm. Even though, like, after I graduated, I haven't talked to, like, I've probably talked to, like, maybe, like, 5 kids since I graduated. Like, I was just, like, over it, goodbye. Yeah. Like, graduations, everyone's, like, crying and, like, hugging each other. I'm like, goodbye.
See you later.
Yeah, like, not like a jerk kind of, like, badass way, just in, like, all right, this is over. Like, I'm going to go do something else. Like, totally sincere, not at all. Like, I don't know. But, yeah, I was kind of glad I did that. So it's funny because I helped, quote unquote, plan the homecoming dance. Not really, but I was a part of, like, the
right, and then you didn't go.
Yeah, I was supposed to go regardless, and then I was nominated for homecoming king, and you get crowned at the game during halftime. I won, and then literally just walked home.
That's
and
incredible.
My sister was, like, getting ready to go to the dance, and I was, like, on the couch playing, like, Silent Hill or something. And then everyone's like, aren't you going to go? You won homecoming king. You should go. And I was like, I don't want to go. I just don't want to feel like going.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then on Monday, I got chewed out by the whole class for not even going. And like, you even won.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
I know. It's so funny because that's people have such, like, they wrap up so much to that. Like, because I mean, I won. I was a prince, so I didn't win king of, like, a winter formal, and I was of the same opinion as you, where it was like, whatever, like, you know, I don't really care, like, thanks, but I don't care. And I ended up getting, like, guilted in going to the dance, and it was one of those things where it was like, you're like, oh yeah, no, if you win, you have to go. And it's like, I think it's amazing that you're like, yeah, fuck that, and then everyone gets pissed at you for it.
Yeah, my mom, like, also one of the things living in a small town is you start to know everybody after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even now when I go back, like, I'll go get, like, a cup of coffee, and, like, the person making my coffee I, like, went to school with, and it's just kind of like that weird, awkward thing. Because there's, like, not a whole lot to do there after you graduate. Like, there's a community college and stuff. And, but, like, after a certain point, it's like, why are you still here? So when you see someone there that you know, it's kind of like you guys both look at each other and be like, man, we're like, why are we still here type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you're just visiting, I still get that vibe. But, like, my mom went to get coffee, and there was a girl working at the coffee shop that was in my leadership class, and she was, like, asking my mom why I wasn't there. My mom had to lie and say I was sick.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because my mom felt embarrassed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
she felt embarrassed and said, my son didn't want to go, so he just didn't go.
That's amazing. So when did kind of independent music sort of come into your life? Like, you know, did it come during high school? Did you start to get into music, or was it always kind of, you know, like, just there?
Well, it happened very early. Like, I started playing, basically, I had a guitar, and I could, like, play guitar, but I wasn't, like, super into it. Like, I love music, and I love, like, learning songs and whatnot, but I wasn't, like, sitting at home shredding scales, you know what I mean? I was just like, this is kind of cool, learn an instrument, whatever. Then I was skateboarding. I was going through that phase, and my friend and I signed up for football, and they said you couldn't skateboard because if you fall, you can't play. So I was like, okay, whatever. I suck at that anyway. It's like I couldn't even, like, go up a curve. It was embarrassing. I started getting more into music as far as playing guitar and whatnot, and then I started writing songs, and I joined, like, a punk band when I was, like, 14, 15, and we played, like a battle of the bands in, like, a coffee house and, like, stuff like that. But, like, after that, I started writing, because it was a punk band, but I like metal. I was really into, like, Jimmy Borgir and, like, Pantera and Lamb of God and whatnot. So I was writing, like, metal, and I wanted to start a metal band. It's really hard to start a band when there's, like,
no one around.
No one in your town.
Right.
But I found some people who play guitar or whatever. We formed a band, and we started playing. And there was, like, an older kid who had a Macintosh and an M-Box, and he was making songs, and he was offering, like, recording services for, like, $10 a song or something. We went in there, and we made a song, and it was cool. But after that, I was like, I really want to do this on my own. So I got a job at Arby's when I was, like, 15, a summer job, and saved up enough money. It was kind of strange because like I think there's like laws like you can't work X amount of hours if you're 15. And I was like 15 working like 6 days a week from like 5 to 11. But
they were grinding you, dude.
Yeah, but it was fine. It was Arby's. Like you sit there and like take people's orders. It was,
right.
I don't know.
You're like, it wasn't that hard.
Food in the bag.
Right.
Yeah, it was like I had a few friends that worked there, so we just kind of screw off, drink milkshakes, and put roast beef sandwiches in bags and give it to people. But I saved enough money to buy a computer and an inbox, and then we bought that, and it was cool because like I was like one of the first people to have a Mac when they were starting to get really like right when the Intel computers came out. They started getting really popular, and everyone started getting them. I was like right before that. So like everyone take their MySpace photo booths pictures in my bedroom, which was kind of funny. Like everyone had a stupid picture in my room, and no one knew how to like when you exited out of Safari, it would still remain open, so I could like go back on and like go on their MySpace, and I'd always change their names to something stupid or I don't know.
That's incredible. Yeah, because it's like people they didn't know how to do stuff, so it's like you're sitting there being like, oh, okay, well I can mess with them. That's so fun.
Yeah, they're just like, when are they going to learn? Like, sometimes the same kid would do it, like, 4 times in a week. I'm like, you think you would learn just to, like, quit that or log out or something to prevent it, because then everyone would make a big deal about it. But, yeah, I started writing music on that thing because I was recording my band and whatnot, and then I was like, well, now I have all this stuff, and we recorded all the stuff we were doing, so I'm just going to start writing on this. So I started, like, screwing around with, like, heavy metal and, like, weird, like Moby-ish experimental music and whatever. And then I recorded myself doing some death metal vocals on my webcam and put them up. But when I put them up, I called myself Big Chocolate because I thought it was funny. And like I wasn't really into like being like this big like burly metal dude or like even being like mean or anything. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to be taken seriously when I was doing it. I didn't want people to be like, oh, dude, like, you're so brutal. Can you tell me about, like, brutal stuff?
Right.
Like, I didn't want to, like, talk about Cannibal Corpse lyrics to people. You know what I mean? So I called myself Big Shock to be not taken seriously. And it went, like, semi-viral in the whole underground death metal community, which is a very small community. So going viral in the death metal community is, like, 200,000 hits. Like, that's, like, astonishing.
Right. And so people...
Yeah, I kind of got known for doing the vocals, but I made all the music, and I would put, like, an EP on iTunes and whatnot through, like, the website TuneCore, which is, like, a really easy way just to distribute your music. You pay them, like a yearly fee of, like, $20, and you can put your stuff on iTunes. And this is so pretty much high school. I worked at a video mom and pop shop, watched videos, and then made music.
So when you,
and I didn't really think anything of it.
Right. And when you posted that was that kind of under the sort of disfiguring. I mean, I know you called yourself Big Talk at the beginning, but was that kind of the transition into sort of that disfiguring the goddess stuff?
It was like the band I was in was Disfiguring the Goddess, and like that was kind of the part where like everyone started getting older. We started like it became like I was the only person in the band at one point and whatnot. And I was like trying to like develop it and get people in, but now I'm at the point where it's just me. Probably like the last 2 years it's been just me. Yeah.
And so
that was what I was doing. And then that kind of got, I don't know, some popularity and whatnot, which was weird because I just thought it was so silly.
Right. Well, no, and that it's funny because like looking, once I got to know you, and then obviously once I, through mutual friends, kind of knowing your backstory and what you were doing, I always found it so interesting to where, here's you, like you said, you're just dicking around. It was just like you like creating this music because, like you said, there was nothing to do, and you wanted to be creative, and this was your avenue to be creative. And then once people started to, become aware of it. And I found it so funny too, like once I started to, look at those videos and see there was people, you incited such interesting conversations where people were either like, well, fuck this guy, these are fake vocals. And like just this weird discussion started to happen around your videos. And it was like, that's what made it so entertaining for me, who was just like, just a dude watching it who, had met you like 6 months prior, to be like, what the hell is happening here? Like, were so many people interacting with you and like, oh, is that really you? Like, I don't know if I believe that.
It was so goofy. It's like people were like having these huge arguments over like how to do this, or like I'm not this or I'm not that. And it's like at the end of the day, you're talking about like death metal, and nothing you say really matters.
It's true.
That was the way I thought about it. It was just like, it was so dumb.
Yeah.
It is so stupid.
Right.
It's still so dumb. And like sometimes I still get like asked about like those videos, like how do you do this, or like, oh my God, this. And I'm just like, you realize that video is like 6 years old.
Right. You're like, this isn't what I'm doing currently. I'm not looking to audition for your 16-year-old death metal band from Columbus, Ohio.
Yes, totally.
I'm sure
kids even now, like I still do death metal. Like Disfiguring the Gods is still a project. Like I put out an album last April.
Right.
I'll probably start writing another album next month and then put it out in the fall or winter. Like I still do it. I still like metal and whatnot. And like I constantly get these emails and messages and comments like, God, this dude was so cool, and now he's so nuts because he's not doing it anymore. Like, what a douche. And I'm like,
you're like, what are you talking about?
Like at the end of the day, like nothing really matters because, like, again, I make death metal or electronic music. Like, it's anything people say on comments sections or messages I get is totally irrelevant to what's going on.
Right. to your life and how you live it.
Yeah. And I don't know if people realize that or not, but yeah, it's sometimes it's really stupid because like I use the same YouTube account for all the music stuff.
Right.
And like when the last Disfiguring record came out, I tried to get all the press to be about like, it's a project, it's only me, it's just this, yada, 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 yada. And I posted it like everywhere. Like I posted it on all my outlets and whatnot, and on the same YouTube channel. Then like 2 months later, I upload a track for like my new album that just came out today. And that like, it's like, oh my God, like, why aren't you doing this anymore? You should focus just on this. And just like, dude, were you not around like a month ago? Like,
yeah. Well, I it's funny because I think your musical output really strikes me as something that I do find interesting and kind of more, maybe more symptomatic of like, whatever. You could label kids that are, quote unquote, kids that are into music now, like, the digital age, where it's like, obviously albums don't matter as much and, kids download singles and whatever. That whole, that whole argument. So, but I do find it interesting because it's like, there are so many people, I mean, kids are listening to more music than ever now just because it's so easily accessible. And I think because of that, a kid can say that they like a band like, Deicide or Cannibal Corpse, but then they can also like, like Stevie Aoki or Tiesto, or whatever. Like, they can have these two polar opposite musical tastes. And it just seems to be that more kids are embracing that whole idea of like, yeah, I can like all this type of stuff.
Yeah, and that's like that's the way music's been going for a while now. Like on all aspects, like festival tours, like Warped Tour, you have literally every act you can think of that a young kid would want to see, and you have it on the same tour. And like even like sonically, like metal is sounding the best it's ever sounded, and it's because of like technology and computers and software, whatever. But the same thing goes for electronic music, and you're getting the same kind of vibes from both genres, like heavy, like very intense, heavy, and then you have like the same exact sonics on both fronts. So like there's all these like kind of weird things that should influence kids to like everything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's like
you can get the same kind of energy. There's also like a lot of shared tempos you'll see in metal and like drum and bass and whatever.
Yeah, and you see what it strikes me now, especially with obviously how EDM is invading the sort of Warped Tour culture, and like you said, where it's like you played Warped Tour 2 years ago, and it's like realistically the same sort of environments that bands that play Warped Tour can also obviously, artists that play, or that, DJ and are part of the electronic dance music scene, they can get the same reaction out of the crowd, where it's like they can have stage dives, that like all that stuff still exists. It's maybe just a different soundtrack to it.
Yeah, I honestly, like, I have seen way more crazy crowds for like DJs than like the most brutal heavy metal band. It's like, it's kind of weird. It's kind of backwards. Like, the music's so intense with metal, and like you got a bunch of dudes with long hair with their arms crossed, and then like probably like 10 dudes with like sweating their heads off, the shirts off in the middle, like kind of pushing each other around, like way intense. But then you go like you watch some like popular in DJ, and you got like 2,000 people and a 2,000 people club. All of them from front to back, side to side, are all moving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. It's a huge.
I don't know. Like,
yeah.
And then I'll see like there's a group called Giant Word that I saw at Lollapalooza.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with them. It's like they were from South Africa, and they kind of came out like 2 years ago or so with these viral videos, and it's so funny. It's like a rap group, but it's like kind of like dancey at the same time, but it's just different because they bring so much of like South African culture into the music, and that's what they really push. It's like South Africa, and everything about them just sounds different and unique, and they're kind of like totally doing their own thing. They're totally unique, and it's awesome. And I finally got to see them live at Lollapalooza this year, and that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, it was like a rap show, but it was like the energy of like a DJ set at the same time, and it was like they're changing it up. It was very interactive, and it was one of the better shows I've seen in my life, probably, as far as crowd participation and just overall energy goes.
Sure. Well, no, and I think that experience is totally, I think it's indicative of what people want out of live music. It's like they want to have, if you've been going to shows, for whatever, between 3 to 5 years, and you've seen when I say shows, like obviously more sort of the, hardcore punk, indie, that type of stuff. It's like, after you've gone to shows for that long, I don't care who you are, it becomes a routine. Like, there's not going to be something insane that you haven't seen. Like, okay, this guy gets up on, crawls up on the, the rafters or whatever. Like, you've seen it, but then once you do see something that is kind of outside of the box, you're like, holy shit. Or if you do see a band that plays within that genre, but just does it with a little different, twist, you're that much more engaged. You're like, oh, it's a nice breath of fresh air in a way. Yeah, totally. But so I wanted to hit on your, because I found it really interesting that you were interested in like criminal justice. And was that something that you kind of, was your interest sparked like in high school, or kind of, where did that all transpire?
Kind of. There's like a few cops in my family, and I've always just been interested in that stuff. I love guns.
Nice.
Nevada is like a very gun-friendly area, especially the northern part, because it's like it's cowboy country. There's no one around.
Yeah, you can shoot everywhere.
Yeah, it's I don't know. So I learned more about them there, and I like having a mustache, and I just figured put them all together. And
I think that's incredible. You're just like, well, I like guns. I have a mustache. I think criminal justice is probably the best route for me to go. I
don't know. I've always been like a very cautious person and whatnot, and I always make sure to obey laws and whatever. And I just feel like I'd be good at it, and I feel like I would enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's a cool way to being involved with the community. You know what I mean? I try my best to be like one of those the good guys, not like screwy jerks that.
Right.
I've had a bad day. Take it out on the people.
Yeah. No, and that's I think that's really cool that you obviously have a you've used that word community more than once during our conversation. I think that's cool that you believe in something greater than yourself, because I think a lot of the accusations that whatever our parents or grandparents or whoever, the sort of typical response for those young kids is like, they're reckless, they don't care, like, they only care about, whatever, stupid, superficial stuff. And like, the fact that you see a profession like, becoming a cop and like, oh, I can actually help the community. Like, that's pretty cool that obviously like all computes in your head.
Yeah, I just think it'd be a great job for me. I think I would enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dangerous and whatnot, but like, I just think I would enjoy it a lot. I find those things interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
At it.
Yeah. Well, like you said, you have the mustache for it. So, I find it really interesting. Obviously, like you were saying, how, you have your YouTube channel and the way that you interact with people, is it's very, you're super hands-on. Like you do obviously everything yourself, and you have so much content that you come out with, whether it's like, the daily video blogs that you do and all that type of stuff. Is it one of those things where it's like, it's fun for you, so that's obviously why you keep doing it? Or do you feel any sense of, not pressure, but, kids like, oh, dude, Cameron, Big Chocolate, or Disfiguring the Godness, like didn't do an update today. Like, where the fuck is it? Like, what sort of motivates you to keep that interaction going?
Well, with that stuff, like with the video blog it was weird because I just started doing it for fun. But like the result was you create these relationships with people who watch, and it's like, it's a true like relationship kind of thing between me and people. I don't like call them fans because I feel like the kids who watch the video blogs are like, we have like a tighter relationship than most artist to fan bonds go.
Right.
But it's like, I just created like a sense of realness between like people who enjoy what I do and me. Like when they meet me, they know how I'm going to be. Like they know, like I kind of give them an insight into my life and whatnot. They know like how I am. And it's really easy to meet kids when I go to shows and whatever. That's pretty much why I play shows and whatever, because I don't really like traveling so much. So the best part I get out of it is like doing the whole like meeting people. You know what I mean? Like going and meeting people, not like hanging out in the back room and going on and then bailing out right afterwards. Like I just don't. It's not the reason you travel. You know what I mean? Well, that's not the reason I travel. Right. I feel like a lot of people who enjoy what I do is partly because I'm very hands on. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, probably the music as well, but I think for some kids, a lot of it is just me being there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. So,
the other thing that's really stuck about though is like if I get really busy and I can't, like right now, Care Every Day is the name of the vlog, and it's been hurting kind of like past like 4 months just because I've been so busy and trying to finish this album, and I really haven't had the most entertaining stuff to like go film or talk about. So it's been like been really weird and kind of like everything's kind of been going down, and I've addressed it, the kids have addressed it or whatever. But it's like as long as you kind of like talk about that and just keep it real, like, hey, I know it's not as entertaining as it was a year and a half ago when all I would do is like throw water at my mom, but like this is why and kind of stuff. And like I constantly have to like readdress that like it's a video about my life and not like I'm not going to be the same person forever. You know what I mean? Like if I plan on doing Care Every Day like long term, like 10 years plus, it's going to go through a lot of changes. It's definitely not going to be the same vlog that they started out as. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a documentary on a person, not like a documentary on like this part of my life. It's a whole progression. So I like it because you can easily see how your life's changing.
Yeah.
I just go watch an old video and I think, wow, I've changed a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
it's really weird.
That's really
like there's kids that don't like that, and like they're welcome to come in and come out as often as they please. You know, like probably if I do this forever and I say the point where I have like kids or something, like I guarantee I'll get like it'll be a totally different vlog than it is today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
so it's the whole progression of the thing.
Yeah. No, that's interesting.
Which is
it's a window.
Hard to get through kids.
Right. Sure. Yeah, it's like kids just view this as like, simple entertainment, but like obviously this means something a little bit more to you, where it's like you said, there's two components to it, so that's cool.
Yeah, I think the vlog as a whole is going to have waves. Obviously, it's going to go ups and downs. There'll be parts where it's probably like really popping and like lots of views, lots of comments, lots of like excitement, and then there'll be times where like when I'm writing an album, where it's like it's literally going to be me sitting in my room all day, EQing stuff, which isn't the funnest thing to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's it's gonna have ups and downs, just
sure.
like anything in life.
Yeah. So do your parents understand what it is that you do, and are they supportive, or is it one of those things you had to really kind of, walk them through it and be like, all right, I'm not going to pursue this criminal justice, I'm not going to get a real job and all these other things that, parents kind of expect of their kids. How did that transition go for you?
It went really well. It was a transition. It was a long transition. It wasn't like a quick overnight switch. They've known I've always been passionate about this stuff, and I've always been very, very close to my dad as far as explaining legitifying stuff. Not that he thinks everything I do is not legitimate, but he's always been there every step of the way. I've gone to him for advice on what to do this, how to structure the business like this, because there are any business things and whatnot. And he's very happy with my success, and I know he's proud and brags occasionally and whatnot. And I don't know. And same with my mom. They're both very proud of what I do. They kind of know I would be doing something like this as well. You know what I mean? When the stuff started to get a lot more successful and I started to get more known and I started doing it as a full-time thing, they were they weren't throwing out their shoes. Then again, when it comes to the music and stuff, they're yeah, it sounds good, Cameron. They don't really follow the music very well. They couldn't know the songs probably very well. But
right.
As far as just what I do as an entertainer, I guess, they're very into it and whatever.
That's cool. Because it's always a difficult spot to be in, because I think especially a lot of, when you're a creative individual, whether it's you're creating, music, or whether you're creating content in general, and then you happen to get a job that is creating content, but it might not be, the traditional way that parents are used to it, where it's oh, are you on a TV show? And it's well, no, but I'm doing these things on YouTube or whatever. It's they won't, in their own minds, they won't define that as successful, even though, you may be doing well enough, you're making a living off of it, and so it's
yeah. And, my parents have been, they're very open-minded people when it comes to most things. So it's especially with this, they've been I don't know, there's been no way where they're why are you doing that? Or what's this? Or why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? They've always been very that's awesome. And they're very understanding of what is success for me and whatnot. And it's weird because what I want out of life is not necessary to be this big hotshot music dude. I just want kind of a normal thing, where I have family, have a few kids, and I don't know, have somewhat of a normal life. You know what I mean? But the American dream, suburbia, that's what I want in the long run.
Yeah.
And whether music takes me there or getting a job, whatever, doesn't really matter to me. That's I know that's what will make me the happiest in the end. So whatever, how I get there is cool with me.
Yeah. No, dude.
Even recently, I've had some really large growth spurts instead of I've had the whole thing's been very gradual, but as far as just business-wise, I've had some very large growth spurts along the way, and no one telling you how to handle that stuff right away, and then just being very caught up in because basically when you do stuff, you run a small business.
Mm-hmm.
Not, you know what I mean? It's not you so you have to do everything you would in a normal small business, i.e. taxes and whatnot. So there's been a few times along the way where I've been I don't want to deal with this. This is so screwed up. I just want to get a normal job.
Right.
Video games all the time.
Yeah.
And I've come close to that a few times, just because it's not about how well I'm doing in music. It's about what I want to get out of life as a whole, and not these little in the now moments. But yeah, my preferred way would be obviously to get through music, because I love what I do. I love making music. I love everything about it. But in the end, I probably will care more about if I can have a family one day or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Well, I think it's whatever. As cliched as the saying is, it's life's not about the destination; it's the journey. But you in your own mind, you're I would like to get to this point, but I don't really care how I get to that point. I just want, I want to have these experiences that lead me there. And I'm not going to be too concerned about how I get there, I don't know. It's an interesting thing, because it's you know, all you're doing is like you're living in the moment, but at the same time, you personally have this vision for where you want to end up, which is, you know, that's I'm sure that's tough at times, and like you said, it's made you almost want to give up at times because you're just like, yo, maybe I should just, you know, quit this shit and do something, you know, quote unquote normal or whatever.
Yeah, like there's times where like it's not like too much as far as like, wow, I can't handle this, but it's like too much as far as like, do I really want to be putting up with all this and all this crazy stuff with like zero guidance and like a way where it's like it's pretty difficult, or do I want to take like a more easy route to get to just I guess quote unquote happiness? You know what I mean? Probably won't be as awesome as it is if I was cool music dude, but whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. My game plan would be like in like 20 years or 30 years or whatever, I would like to like live wherever I wanted and pretty much just have a home studio and just work on production music all day. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then
like,
that have your own little corner of the world, so to speak.
Yeah. Work from home type of get up, still be music. I'd have like a home studio, but like, I wouldn't have to be like slaves to the grind, as in like I wouldn't have to be forced to tour all the time or whatever.
Yeah.
Like most acts or whatever. And that's like a lot of the reason why I've like stayed unsigned and independent. It's because like what I'm doing now works for me.
Uh-huh.
I can manage it by myself, and like with tools like the internet, it's so easy to do stuff yourself and to not like the pressure to sign or like you have to be signed to be legitimate isn't like it's becoming less of a thing every day.
Right.
Like, and that's another thing I try and like show to like the kids who watch my blog and like people who also make music and like you can do it yourself. You know what I mean? Like all the tools are out. Like I do everything myself. I have like management and an agent, but like as far as like putting a record out, it's I put the record out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, this is something that, you know, you have systems to help you, you know, achieve what it is you're trying to do. But, you know, everything else you obviously have in place to be like, hey, I'm going to create the music. This is the direction that I want to take this music. And ultimately, that's the most important thing. It's the content, not rather than, oh, like, cool, you get to play this show somewhere. It's like that, you know, you wouldn't be able to get to play that show if you weren't comfortable with the music that you were creating, you know?
Yeah, and there's been some times where like I'll be playing a show and like especially because my album just came out and I'm really happy because like for the longest time all the music that's been under my name I've been pretty much disgusted with, so like very sad about that. But now that I have this album out, it's like kind of some music that I'm okay being represented by. You know that constant artist struggle of like you outdo yourself with every song and then you kind of get like scribble up things and go back to the drawing board too much. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or like you're never happy with anything. Like very true. Like I'll put an album out and I'll be like, oh, I'm not happy with it anymore. But like this album just came out. Like I'm somewhat happy with like the ideas that are presented in the album. So I'm okay playing shows and stuff now because like when they look me up, they'll find that album hopefully, and that will represent me way, way better than stuff I did 2 years ago.
Yeah, you're putting your best foot forward. So.
Yeah, and like for the longest time, I was like, I don't want to play shows because we're gonna like check it out. They're gonna post some old songs that I'm not gonna be happy with, and it'll be embarrassing, and I just don't want that.
Yeah,
and I don't know, but like now I'm somewhat happy, and the circle of life has balanced itself yet again.
That's well, I am very excited for you, and thank you for wanting to hang out with me. I appreciate you obviously taking the time out of your day and. You know, really, you obviously have opened yourself up for me, and I appreciate that, Cameron.
Oh, yeah, anytime.
Well, there you have it. That was my chat with Cameron, and good dude, right? Like he just, he wants his own little piece of land in Reno and hanging out with his family. Yes, visit propertyofzach.com, check it out, and listen to next week. We appreciate it. Thanks.